Welcome everyone to the Adversity to Advantage podcast. I'm very excited. We're still in sort of semi-lockdown, I guess, but we're coming towards some semblance of an end, I think. I've got Enton Barefoot with me. We've been trying to arrange this for a little while. I'm really excited about your book, suitably titled Laid Bare. And I also know our stories kind of connect a little bit. So tell us a bit about your book to start with.
Yes, so I'm going to be the...
Go for it.
Here's my book. That's what
Laid
it's called.
Bare.
I know it's back to front, but it's called Laid Bare. And it's been to get it to where it is now in that form, it's been about a 10-year journey.
Goodness.
So it's one of them things where you just don't realise that you have a story. But then when you start talking to people and people ask you where you come from and how do you overcome addiction, and then you just think, actually, I do have a story. And then, so my story is about addiction, homelessness, and life in recovery.
Okay. Is it essentially sort of autobiographical? So it's your experience and what you've learned. Yeah. It
is my story from exactly what it is. It's from my childhood all the way to life in recovery. So, which was difficult at times to allow people to read it. Because as it came out, as it came out, the inspiration was prior to that. As I was writing my book, reading other people's books in the field.
Sure.
So I read Russell Brand's, and I read a street cat named Bob. So I kind of read all. So I read all the people that have had journeys, and when you read that, you think, wow. And then the light bulb comes on and think to yourself, well, I've actually got a story like that, but I think I can tell mine a little bit better.
Okay, so we're gonna jump into that story a little bit.
Yes.
And as I said before we went on air, and much of my audience knows, I'm sober myself, so it's been about 12, 13 years. There's a bit of a journey there, yeah, but I'm curious, so you talk a bit about your childhood.
Yeah.
There's this great speaker, professor, he's on YouTube all over the place, Dr. Gabor Mate. He talks about how, he says, all addiction is rooted in some kind of trauma.
Okay.
And he has some evidence around that. And I'm just curious for you, like looking back, do you think there were signs already of addictive behaviors or thought patterns right from when you were a child? Like what was your childhood like in that sense? So
unfortunately, as the academic studies are out there, it never, the only thing I can think of was that at such a young age, from my first memory, was I had this massive, massive fear, just these anxieties. So I'd be afraid of the dark. I'd be afraid of spiders. I'd be afraid of being beaten up. I'd be afraid of getting into trouble. So, and it's massive, and it was massive fear. You know, so this was like, I would say not too much of a panic attack, but it was, you feel them butterflies and you catch your breath and it feels like your stomach's coming out with you.
Yeah.
It's kind of that heightened level of anxiety. And I remember having them from such a young age. And my experiences with alcohol and drugs, I was stereotypical, I'm not going to smoke, I'm not going to drink. It's that type of child, because once I found sport, once I found playing football, playing cricket, playing team games, it just gave me a little bit of confidence to believe that there's somebody in the team that thinks I can do well. So parents tell you what I need to know. They give you the emotional support. I had freckles quite a lot when I was a child. So, and what they say about freckles, supposed to be a sign of beauty. But to me, they were a hindrance. They didn't mean anything to me. It just made me look worse. And
so you felt like uncomfortable in your own skin?
Absolutely. But from a young age, and it was just like, I didn't know where I was. I didn't know how to settle. But luckily for me, my mum has a massive, massive family. So she was one of 12.
Wow. So
it was a big gypsy, like Romany gypsy community.
Yeah.
So I had plenty of cousins, older than me, younger than me. So I've got loads and loads of cousins. But luckily for me, we all played together. So we'd all have this great childhood where we can just escape.
Nice sense of community as well.
Yes, and it was a very small village in Pembrokeshire in Wales, you see. So
okay,
it's idyllic because people come from around the UK to holiday.
Yeah.
And to have a beach 6 miles away, we could bike ride. So I'd have these things in place where I can escape. But then once I was back on my own, those beliefs come into my being, and thinking I'm not good enough. I'm never going to be good enough. I'm not good looking. I'm very scared around people. I'm very scared of doing certain things. And so I suppose on the academic level for the studies, I think that could be a factor.
Mm-hmm. But
once I realised I was quite good at a certain sport, my mindset flipped, and I focused on my training. So I wanted to be a professional footballer, and I knew what I had to do. And if it meant losing out on certain things, then I was going to do it.
You found your thing to focus on.
Yes, and the thing is, well, so there was one person that noticed I had some talent, and then he would give his time when he could. But then I did it myself. So I asked my dad to buy me a football. And once I got that football, it never left my side. You know, I asked him to buy me a tennis ball so I wanted to be a goalkeeper.
Okay.
And in my book, I explain the reasons why, because we had this gentleman was in goal. Well, this man, our goalkeeper, was in goal, and he miraculously saved this penalty. And it just blew my mind away. And I wanted to know how he'd done that. And I knocked his door. I badgered him and just kept pushing him. And he was very kind, because he'd never say no, and he would just explain that he's got to go to work and stuff like that. So
some people might say that that's the most pressured job, though, because you're really being watched on your own in a way.
Yeah. So with being a goalkeeper, you're always going to you're never going to get applauded for the saves you make or what the good things you do, but you will be lambasted for the mistakes.
Yeah. And for an anxious kid, that's quite a direction to go in.
Absolutely. But the thing is, because what helped me was because I was able to go and train.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what gave me a little bit of confidence, I was away from all the people that could beat me up in my head, in my thought process. I was away from people who they couldn't reject me. So I took my football and I trained by myself. So I would do lots and lots of ball work, hand work, and dive in.
Okay. It kind of gave you purpose.
Yes, absolutely. To believe, then that gave me the confidence in myself then. Just that small confidence to say, when it comes round to being picked in the team, I know I've made myself the best I can be to get selection. And it worked. And then I have a team of 10 other players, 10, 14 players. So as a team, they then going to look after me because we're part of a team. So they're going to believe in me, which is that's what I needed. And
they're going to back you up in the game. So you're essentially still working together, and you have this very specific role to play to add value, I guess, to the team.
Yes, absolutely. And then but once once the game is over, and once training's over, it's then back to reality. So then I still have to manage my anxiety. So, and my parents did the best they can, and I think. At that time, I don't think it wasn't spoken of that you had as child anxiety. So I'd never my mum and dad are not from an academic world. They're part of the working class, and my dad's a painter and decorator. But I've written in my book that my dad knows everything. He put Bear Grylls in his place because he knows how to live off the land.
Yeah.
And he taught me those skills as well. So my mum, once she worked, she used to work. She started working in a bakery, and then she just got a job in the local NHS with us. But then as soon as she fell pregnant with herself, my two brothers came along, and then back in those days, my mum became the housewife. So it was that's how it was. So I only went to going to school, and then thinking that work became easy to me. I realised that my education was my brain was quite good, so I could learn more stuff. So part of going to school then, it's another level of anxiety because I'm going to a bigger school. So, and it was So my mum and dad never took me to the doctor, and there was never going to the doctor to say, oh, you know, my son is suffering, as the provision.
But did you even talk about it in the house, even if they didn't have that
No.
understanding? Was it kind of that masculine culture as well, of just man up and show no weakness, all that sort of stuff?
Well, and it's not a fault I wouldn't blame my parents.
Of course.
Blame, but it just wasn't there. My mum gave me all the TLC that I needed.
Sure.
You know, I'd always be hanging off her hip when I was young, just to make sure that she was there. Because if my mum wasn't there, I don't know what I'd do, because I was very close. My dad was like you said, he's a man's man. You know, so it's the masculinity around it. You know, I didn't believe in myself, so why would I believe that I could be something like my dad, where my dad has somebody like so much in place. So he's very confident in what he does. So I look at him thinking, I don't know why I'm not like you, and I couldn't understand why.
Yeah, it's that internal dialogue. So then when did addiction start showing up, or maybe some of the real challenges for you that led to addiction?
So the first time was when I moved away. So fortunately and unfortunately, to give you a backdrop of it, I fell in love. I had my first love at 17.
That'll mess you up.
So that was quite intense, because I'd gone, I believe, so long that I was never good looking or good enough for someone to fancy me or to actually look at me. It was just one of those crazy things that I used to believe. And then I met my first love, and she gave me like 5 or 6 months that I still today think like it's made me who I am, because she was just amazing. Mm-hmm. And we did have a good time together, but then she broke up with me, and it completely ripped my heart out. And to get a way to deal with that, my dad said, just go and stay with your uncle for a bit. Go and, you know, he plays football, you might find you've got a bit in common with him, and just go away for 2 weeks. And at that time, I just thought it was the right thing to do, because I was struggling, and it's hard to process loss for the first time, and it's emotional loss, and it's heartbreak, and it's all these emotions that you try and deal with. So I did that, and then 30 odd, well, that was 18, so 25, 26 years later, I've not too much. So I moved to Leicestershire, and that was it. I came back to collect my stuff, and I made the big decision to move when I was 18. And then over time...
Was that sort of prompted by your broken heart, that you were just like, fuck it, I need to run away. You didn't run away. Got it.
Absolutely. And it took a long time to recognise that. So I know I digress, but going back, having the help I received along the way into my recovery, you have to really go go deep and understand, like, so what was the move about? And for years upon years, I denied that I was running away. And
of course,
then you have to find that finally found that acceptance that it was. There's no other ways to it. So I did run away, and in hindsight, I think I ran away for the right reasons. Because now I've met so many wonderful people as I've gone along, and so the issues became 18. I'm kind of like got this new zest and new verve in me now to go and right. I'm supposed to be a young man. I got my first job not long after moving in Leicestershire, and that was a massive jump, because I went from a YTS job, but I don't know, you probably won't know it's like an apprentice.
Oh yeah.
So it's like very little money. So that's the job I had in Wales, and then in Pembrokeshire. And then when I moved to Leicestershire, my salary jump was massive.
Yeah.
And then drinking was, football, playing, I managed to settle in with my uncle's club and managed to meet a few people who like to go for a drink after the game. And having a few drinks, the nerves are still there, but then once I remember sitting in the clubhouse, and it's a very rural community, and you have your first couple of drinks, then you have 3 or 4. And then for some reason, you don't feel afraid. You don't feel fear. You feel fantastic. So not high, not low, just whatever this middle feels, it just feels incredible.
And it's what you imagine other people feel all the time. Like in your state of insecurity of like, I am not enough. You imagine that that's what normal feels like.
Absolutely.
Right? So you're just like, now I can just have banter and chat and just like not overthink it and just be normal. That's like the feeling, isn't it? Yeah.
That's perfectly put.
Yeah.
And that's why you feel, then you think, have people been feeling like this for forever? And I've just realised this is how I can feel now.
Yeah.
So
I'm actually weirder than I thought. I never feel like this.
Exactly. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And then that feeling then is like, it's wrapped around. It's like it's just like a warm hug. And then you just think, wow, if only I could feel like this forever. And so the dance the dance with alcohol started there, and it took me on a waltz and all the dance names I can make as a pun, but fundamentally that's what happened. And then over the years it just increases slowly. It's very seductive, and it can be your best friend, but it also can be your worst friend.
And that's what's tricky is like all the fun stories, you know,
yes,
and so your mind just goes, oh, but there was that time when, and you sort of do the rose tinted glasses thing view of it, right? Of like, oh, and yeah, it went a bit crazy then, but what a great story. And you kind of the banter just fuels it, doesn't it?
It's a folklore story, isn't it? So when you go out with friends, so when I used to go out with friends, you have folklore stories. Like, you can remember when we went out like 3 weeks ago and we did this and this, and it's like, and then you realise, no, we're actually being a bit like foolish.
Insane.
Yeah. But it's those. So that's the dance you have, and over time. So then moving out to having my own place. The minute I got my own place, it was party time. So and I've written in my book where I moved at the right time because the 90s. So moving in 1994. So I'm an old fart now. So I'm 44 this year. So Oasis. So the music. I'm massive into my music. One of my movies, music, sport, my passions. They are my three passions. And when I moved to Leicestershire, it was the right time. Everything was about timing.
Yeah, it all aligned for you.
Oasis came out, and they took it like a TNT and just exploded it across the UK. And for the first time, there was a guy called Liam Gallagher who was like me from a council estate, telling the world what he was going to do, and he was going to do it in his own way. And I just thought, oh my God, if only I could bottle that, can I just drink some of that confidence and just let me have it? And he just changed he helped me kind of not be myself. So I just wanted, and then I just wanted to be him. But I didn't want I suppose he's not, I think he plays for the camera. He plays in public.
Sounds like you wanted the persona.
Persona,
confident, badass, creative, cool.
Absolutely. I'm going to take drugs. I'm going to drink. I'm going to take drugs, and I am going to be a rock and roll star tonight. And I think with that, it was just timing, and then people around me as well. So I started forming friendships, and football and sport was there. So everything was there. But then the same thing happened when I was on my own. So I didn't really want to meet anybody because I was still heartbroken. I was still yearning to feel that way again. So I just found myself just living this 90s whirlwind with like Liam as my
God,
as a captain, as my God, yes. And then
but
then music come in. So music was always been part of that. So so then we'd go. So I go to music gigs, and then we'd go to like music events, and so we started meeting other people in the village I was living, and then started drinking. Oh, blimey,
was alcohol your worst drug of choice, or was it?
To start with, yes, yeah. So you start drinking moderately. Then you start drinking sporadically, and then you start drinking excessively. And
then if you ever hit a bump in the road, as like a regular bump in the road that people hit, and you now have those habits around, let me just change the way I feel, it becomes the habit then, right? And that those are the moments where it can spiral even worse.
Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. And so you say to yourself, okay, so if I'm drinking on a Saturday because I'm playing sport, or I won't drink Sunday because my friends are out there and they're having a Sunday drink, or no, I'll just go down and have a couple, and then it doesn't matter about the day then.
No.
The 7 days a week doesn't really care. So then you start. The first time I drank at home was like, well, I don't need to go out. Because I was happy I was unhappy in my skin because I didn't like myself, but I was happy to be indoors with my best friend, and the alcohol was my best friend.
You can just feel accepting of yourself. So where did excessive drinking and perhaps other stuff take you? What were some of your rock bottom points?
Oh wow, there's been quite a few. So somebody introduced me to cocaine, or a drug, that said that if you take this, you can drink more. So it's like, really? Light bulb went up straight away. So, and then, which I now know, which is now cocaine, and
sure.
The purity at that time was quite higher. So you have probably 8 to 10 drinks, so your body's getting used to it, so your body's getting tolerant. And then once you start to take the cocaine came along, it was just, wow. Now it's another feeling. It just, you are now on top of the world.
Yeah.
You drink more. And then my worst was, I'd gone to a nightclub, and I don't remember much of it. All I remember is I was drinking all day, and when I say all day, not heavy, just drinking.
Sure. Consistently throughout, yeah.
And taking illicit drugs as well to help me through. And I remember being on a nightclub, and I just remember being on the top of the stairs. So this is the top of the stairs, and I blacked out, and I just went bang, 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 and then woke up in the ambulance, and I got a black eye, so it was all, my eye was swollen. I was lucky to survive, because the ambulance man said the only reason why I survived is because my body was relaxed.
Yeah, you didn't. Tense up. Yeah.
And I was in the ambulance, and they did all the tests, and he said to me, I think the amount of alcohol you smell like, I think you probably need to go and see somebody about that. But from what we can see, you're okay. He said, I think you may have blacked out. And I said, no, I didn't. And I just had this little argument. No, I didn't. I said, I'm just tired.
You were just defending yourself. You didn't want to believe it yourself?
Of course not. No, absolutely.
Of course.
There's no one. He was concerned. He was going to tell me. So I got out of the ambulance, went home, got some ice, and on the way down, the next morning, I brought some more alcohol. So
you brought some more alcohol, yeah. And people don't understand how the crazy that actually goes on to make us do that sort of thing.
Yes.
Where you've just had such carnage that your life was at risk, or for me, I put other people's lives at risk, or whatever it is, and you're just like, how are you living like this? But still, the thought of not having the buzz of normality, which isn't normal anymore, is just too big a thing to admit, because you just, I don't know, all the fear is that you'll go back to your little, anxiety-induced teenage self that just doesn't fit in anywhere. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing as well. And it becomes self-isolation, because you're isolating yourself.
Yeah.
Even though I had teammates, they didn't see me during the week, and I didn't see them during the week.
No.
So alcohol was my lover. It was everything. It was my wife. It was anything I wanted it to be, because it made me feel incredible. I never had an affair with it. It was mine. Alcohol was me, and I was alcohol, because it was everything that needed to be was what I wanted it to be. And if anyone was going to turn around and say to me, my mum would tell me, my dad would tell me, you know, you're drinking too much, and I would just turn around and say, I don't care, because this is who I am. This is my best friend.
So what got you to wake up? At what point did you then go, something's got to give? What forced you to start recovery? Yes,
kind of just went, when you finally become homeless, when you're homeless.
Okay, so you got to that point.
Absolutely. So there was I tried a few times I had a previous relationship where we had a son, and I'd said to my son's mum that I would try and look, I'll go and speak to a doctor or speak to somebody, but it was only just to keep her off my back. And then about 2006, I write in my book that I had two lapses.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the second one when I'd been to a gig, and I got completely wasted with drugs, and I haven't spoken about ecstasy as well, because MDMA was perfect as well, because it gives you because I don't love myself. It makes you feel.
It's all about the love.
Oh, it's just it's euphoria, euphoric feelings of love.
Yeah.
And then I went to this gig, and I just remember it being at like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. I was supposed to be at work. I completely messed myself up, and I went home. I managed to get home back from. I was living in Derby. I managed in the UK, and then I managed to come home. And then my dad said to my dad, I've done what I've done. And he was like, right, what can we do? I did not want to go into rehab, because it was just like, no, it wasn't going to be for me. My dad said I could stay in he had a caravan.
Mm-hmm.
And then I stayed there for a bit, went back to work. They allowed me, they kept my job. And then I just drank again. And then my dad said, that's it. I said, I can't help you anymore. You're going to have to go and do this yourself. And so all the friends that try to help me, all the other people try to help me, I can't. I realised once I'd left my job, I moved back to my area in Loughborough, and I literally had my suitcase, and that was it. So I kind of.
So people are just done helping you as well.
Yeah, burned all my relationships, burnt everything, because I owe people money. I borrowed money left, right, and centre, and and it's just, I felt that it's a very selfish feeling. It's like, why would nobody help me? Yes, I still owe you money, but
the selfish feeling. Aren't we just fucking victims? Like the whole world is against us, and everyone else is making us do this, and you're pushing me to be this bitch.
Absolutely, it's your fault. It's your fault I'm in this position.
Everyone else's fault. And this is what I'm saying about personal responsibility, is like, that's probably one of the most profound and difficult things I've ever had to learn.
Yes.
It's like radical, total responsibility.
Yeah.
Even if that person has harmed you, and that person's a dick, and that person's whatever, even if it doesn't matter, ultimately you are responsible for your sobriety. Otherwise, all bets are off for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you drank, when you first realise that, it's only then you realise just how much of an idiot you've been.
I mean, but then you start going into the spiral of shame, right?
Yeah.
When you actually realise.
Yeah.
And that spiral of shame sometimes coincides with you being like sober.
Yeah.
So like you just feel naked, like every bit of shame, and like suddenly you're awake to all the, like, people think the tough thing is putting the drink down.
Yeah.
Yes, that's tough, the habit and all the rest of it. But for me, the tough thing was just learning to live with myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was it. So I came back to Loughborough with all those. So when there was nobody there, so I couldn't call on anybody. I couldn't go back to mum and dad's. I had no phone. I'd had everything's gone. I've got no money.
Yeah.
I want to go and get drunk. I want to go and take drugs. I want to carry on my way of life. But there's nothing there.
But it's not the fun way anymore. Like
no,
it used to be
not.
like hanging out with the
Yeah.
cool. Now it's like, which old geezer's at the bar in the day so that I can just have a drinking buddy, right?
And that's why I didn't go to a town centre, because I didn't want people to think that I was a hobo or this stereotypical homeless look, because like the buddies at the pub and the people at the pub were still drinking. You want to go and sit with them and drink. It's gone way. That's gone far way beyond that. I literally had my suitcase. I came back because it's the only place I know I'd be safe. So I didn't want to stay in the city centre in Derby because I don't know it. So I came back to Loughborough knowing that I could feel safe because I know the areas
you could
and
survive.
I could keep up the way. And hope of my dad and my mum would help, but they didn't. And
they'd had enough by then.
and
that's a journey in itself, isn't it? Just thinking
absolutely.
it from a parent's perspective, watching your son slowly kill himself, and helping so many times. Yeah. Did you ever have those moments where you just looked into their eyes and thought, what am I doing?
Well, when you that's my bottom. It's like when they said no, like
they had to draw the line. It was that bad.
You have to go it yourself, because what's the first thing I would have done if my mum and dad had given me a room? Just continue.
Yeah,
and with no disregard, it would have been just continued. I'm carrying on the way I'm going, because now I'm back at mum and dad's. They're my parents. They won't kick me out. So, and you have that mindset, but they said, no, you have to do this your way. We can't help you. So it
sort of shakes you, it jolts you a little bit. How long have you been sober?
It's 13 years this year.
So how has your life changed since being sober?
Wow. How has my life changed? It's been my life has changed so much, so much. I've been able to understand who I am. The professional help I received was invaluable. It's something that I had to realise that I have to accept it. I want that help, and I have to go into places I don't want to go. And lots of tears, lots of tantrums, lots of light bulb moments, and that was detrimental to the first step, was to go and strip myself down and allow a professional to work with me to rebuild another version of myself. And then that allowed me then to understand what I'd done, who I was, why this was relevant, why alcohol and drugs was relevant to me. And then it gave me the capacity then to start thinking about work again and start leaving my old life behind. And I know it sounds a cliche, but it is one small step at a time, because you can't, like someone would put it to me, so why would you look into Wednesday when it's Monday?
Yeah, you can't.
Monday, you have to finish Monday the best you can. And if you can finish Monday without drinking and taking drugs, what's to say you can't do Tuesday to start off with that mindset? So, and that's when just to digress a little bit, Petra, when I got to rock bottom, I went and found a arch, there's a bridge,
mm-hmm.
and I stayed under the arches. And that moment, from that first night, I have never cried those tears again, ever. I've cried, I've been upset, I've been emotional. But that moment when I knew I had nothing.
Desperation.
Yes, everything just came out.
Mm.
And in my mindset, in my tears, and that mindset, like I just said just then, if I drink now, there's no point carrying on. I'll just go and kill myself. Very selfish mentality, isn't it? But then for some reason, I just went, well, I can't drink tonight because I haven't got no money. But what I can do is I can go and find out how I go about finding somewhere to live. And so I had about 4 hours sleep that night, and that's how, and that moment has changed everything since that night. Because from that day forward, that's it. I haven't drank or taken a drug.
Okay.
So that first day. So that day, go into places where, like the local council, charities, finding out these places. Once I had a purpose, that's what I said to myself. So this Wednesday, what can I do today? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is drink. Because one, I haven't got no money, and two, it'll just set me back 48 hours.
Yeah.
It'll set me back 2 years, it's going to set me back 48 hours. So if I don't drink today, what can I do for the same thing tomorrow, for the Wednesday?
Did you go to AA, or did you get external support groups?
So I went to AA once, and unfortunately at that time, I didn't want to admit I was an addict.
Sure.
You have to stand up and say,
yeah, I'm an alcoholic, I'm an addict.
I'm an alcoholic. And I was like, really? Okay. Am I an addict? No, and I wasn't ready, I wasn't ready to admit that. And I kind of looked at it holistically. So my purpose, so external agencies, I managed to get, not long after, but that's about 3 months on the street.
That's a bit of a stretch of time, yeah.
It was, yes. So but then routines. So then I had routines. So I was able to claim a personal benefit. So it was unemployment benefit, and I was then able to work my money out per day. Then what you find is you can go to soup kitchens and places where like churches would provide food from the charities I came in contact with. And then, so I had my clothes to wash. I bathed, I showered, I looked after myself, so I kept my personal hygiene. And that's what the strange thing about it is, that's what became my addiction.
I was wondering what your thoughts are on replacing addictions with addictions. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I'd say I'm a bit borderline work addicted, but luckily it's work that I love, and I'm an entrepreneur, so I get to be obsessive and people don't question it as much, you know?
Yeah.
But sometimes we trade one in for another one that might not be as detrimental. It might not kill us, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But it could be emotionally unhealthy. Did you find that you traded some addictions in?
Yes, and it wasn't with other substances. So it was personal stuff.
Obsessive routine.
Yeah, exactly. So my routine was obsessive, and so I would go to the laundrette, and I worked out going to the laundrette that it was cheaper for the member of staff to wash and dry my clothes with the powder than it was for me to buy the powder and do it myself.
Okay.
So I did that. So that was a routine. I would go to the local leisure centre. I would pay for a swimming entrance so I could go and have a shower. Mm-hmm. That was a routine. I went to the town toilets, spoke to the cleaners and said, "Could I shave?" Mm-hmm. That was a routine. So that became the buzz I was looking for, because I was sleeping in my tent. You know, I was kind of I was in the middle of nowhere because I didn't want anyone to know where I was, and that became my routine. So I moved it like a mile away from the town centre. I pitched my tent up. So my routine became walking as well. So walking a mile and back. So it was kind of easy for me to do it, but then I realised just how much strength that I realised that I had to do it. But it just became my normal. So it just became that was the routine. So the obsessiveness, like, right, I've got to get a shower, got to do this, got to go into town, got to get some food.
And eventually you started talking to people, professionals, or getting it out of, trying to figure it out.
So as soon as I became a resident with a homeless charity, I was then able to talk and have one-to-one sessions. And prior to coming on becoming homeless, when I was in Derby, I was able to speak to somebody at alcohol abuse team.
Yeah.
Which I can't remember so many times I had so many tantrums. Because you don't realise, because they're asking you, they're giving you reflective questions. So I don't feel, you just get really right. I'm not having a good day today. So let's wind it back. Tell me how your morning's been, and then he just tell me. Then he goes like, tell me this, tell me that, tell me. It's like,
you're just not used to it. You've kept it all very internal, haven't you?
Yes.
Enton, we haven't got that much time left, and I love that you've written a book. So we'll put a link to that into the show notes. But what do you wish people? What do you wish you knew about addiction and about life? That you didn't know as you were stumbling around just trying to escape it. What do you wish you knew?
Well, today it's I wish that I knew that there's more of an understanding of what alcohol really is. So addiction, what
education
really is.
Yeah,
it's all about education, with the education around it, to understand that, and it's all illicit drugs and prescribed drugs as well. So it's you can get addicted to both, and the education today is a lot better than it was today. So I think for me, the education around what is dangerous, and it can be life-threatening. And I think peer support as well, because I never had any peers. So peer support, having that, I think I don't need to go to AA now, because I've put myself in a position where I'm able to move forward. But I would definitely recommend people seeking out an AA, and it may not be for them, but those peer support groups, you know, anything. And
it's the community piece.
Community feel, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think friends as well. So it's because I never had that many friends, I had more associates. So if you've got friends and friends are challenging individuals because of this, and then realise that friends are not having to go at you, they're trying to help as best they can, because they can see what's going on. So again, friends give you education as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's getting a sounding board that isn't in your own head, right? And actually being open to listening. Yes.
And the thing is, I haven't had a chance to speak to you about, obviously, my suicide attempts, because I've been talking about my addiction. So that's again, so it's recognising the education around awareness about someone's low moods and mental health and well-being, because there will be signs. You can see those signs.
Did your suicide attempts happen when you were in the full flows of addiction, or actually after, like adjusting to the normal real life?
One was before.
Yeah.
Because my football career was over.
Okay.
And my mum saved my life, because she recognised what I'd done. I don't remember it. I remember taking a lot of pills, and I woke up in hospital. And then the second time was in the down times when
stop drinking.
Yeah, so in between, so when there was as I would consume a lot of alcohol. Alcohol is a depressant, so it just, when you're not drinking it, and it does alter your mindset. And I was really low, and second time, it was I was completely. Yeah, I can't explain it. Low, just I didn't want to be on the planet.
Yeah, you just want the pain to stop, right?
Yes, and I kind of recognised. It was a gentleman had to go to the benefits office, and I'd had my hair I was all dishevelled. I'd had this ridiculous long coat on, and I'd had the pills in my pocket. And the guy in the benefits office, he spotted it straight away, and he called the manager in, and they sectioned me. So yeah.
And then spent some time. You got set time inside as well, just to look after.
Yeah, so I had to go. Yeah, so I stayed for about a week. So they sectioned me there and then, because they called the police, and the police, they asked me a question if I would I want to harm myself, and I went, without a shadow of a doubt, I'm not feeling very good.
You agreed. Yeah. Well, I think people need to buy your book. I think that's what happens.
Yes.
So before I ask my final question, where can people find you and anything about you?
So anything about me, so myself, I'm on all social media handles, so LinkedIn, Facebook, social media, Instagram, sorry, and Twitter. So Enton Barefoot. If you do a quick search, they'll find me. My website is called www.therealbarefoot.co.uk.
I love it.
So I can always, the people want to reach out to me, if they go on my website, my number's on there, my email address is there. So
yeah, okay. Perfect. We'll add that into the show notes as well. I'm sure they can find your book through that as well. And so finally, in this present day, what are the top 3 things that you consistently do to look after your mental health? What are the top 3 things?
Communication.
Yeah.
Communication paramount.
Yeah.
And if it's a bad day, shit day, good day, no matter what day it is, talk.
Yeah.
I train, so physical health, whether you go running, whatever you want to do, training is good. And for me, it's accepting who you are. I'm acceptance. I am somebody that can never and never will drink again.
Yeah.
I've accepted that, and I love that about myself, because I've given permission to believe I've accepted who I am.
You know, it's true. I love that. And we're going to end there. Enton, thank you so much for your time and telling us your story. I'm going to look forward to looking out for your book as well. Thanks so much.
Thanks for letting me come on. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you, Petra.
You too. Thank you.